The book came about circa 2000 when the Long Now Foundation was getting ready to spruce up its website a little bit, and they asked several people, including me, to contribute sketches of what we envisioned the clock of the Long Now might one day look like, not as serious engineering proposals, but just to give some sense of how people were thinking about the idea. And at the time, I had been reading summaries, sort of news roundups that different newspapers had been publishing. We were getting to the end of the year, and so we were getting the typical end-of-year news roundup, everything that had happened in 1999. We were also getting end-of-decade news roundups, and some of the cheekier newspapers were publishing end-of-century and end-of-millennium news roundups, the Norman Conquest, the Black Death, and other news highlights of the last 1,000 years. And I got to thinking that I had been wasting a lot of time reading the newspaper every morning and filling my head with events that had happened in the last 24 hours that probably weren't going to make the end-of-year roundup of news, to say nothing of decade, century, or millennium. And so, as my contribution to this set of sketches, I drew a clock tower surrounded by a system of concentric walls. The idea was that each wall had a gate that was directly connected to the clock's internal workings, just like the door on a cuckoo clock. And in the outermost wall, there was a gate that would open once a year for a little while. And as long as it was open, people were free to pass in and out of that gate and see the space inside the wall. But if you were still on the inside when the gate closed again, it meant that you were making a commitment to remain there for a year and have no informational contact with the outside world during that year. Sort of an enforced kind of retreat, if you want to think of it that way. And inside of that wall was another one whose gate opened only every 10 years, and inside of that there was a 100-year and then a 1,000-year gate, where progressively more isolated communities of people could live. So that went up on their website in 2000, and I had other projects at the time, but I found that I couldn't quite get the idea out of my head, and so the next time I was looking for a fictional project to work on, I wrote the novel Anathem, which is set in a hypothetical future world in which several such institutions have been up and running for about 3,600 years. And so the book, I won't try to sort of say what happens in it, but it posits a community of people who have formed their own kind of distinct monastic culture and taken a vow of poverty, in a sense, and who live safely on the inside of these walls, reading and writing books, and so pursuing the life of the mind while in the world outside of them, which doesn't really notice that they're missing. The world continues in an endless series of booms and busts and renaissances and dark ages and world wars and what have you. So that's the setup for the book, and I believe it's why I've been invited here today, and I'll try to make something of it during our conversation.